First off, can't play me, I ain't no Xbox. I'm pulling up, busting windows. I'm at your mama's spot, kicking cups, smacking dice. I'll make this block hot. No trapping here, slacking where? Wait, get your home right. I'm sick and tired of fucking crying and sleepless nights. Bitches approaching me, telling me they don't know of me. Oh, you think you slick? You think you got one up? You better ask my last nigga, cut his ass right up. Yeah, can't cry but spill milk if I knew it was rotten. And all these memories we had, they was quickly forgotten. Oh, this nigga think he's smooth, he tryna cast it over me. Keep on lying through his teeth, leave his ass like Emily B. No pink turtlenecks, but I'm feeling bad. US, I can't let him go, but watch me loosen up. My grip, I'm hopping in my bank. I'm talking about that go wall shit. I need a couple bags. Ain't talking about no go yard, a bitch. You geeking for? I'm really about to drag and go and cry no more. I had to tell that nigga stop playing with me before they find this picture on murder me. Be more careful with me. I ain't like these other bitches that you used to better watch the way you handling me. I told you just be careful with me. You better be more careful with me. I ain't like these other bitches that you used to better watch the way you handling me.
Hello, darlings. Hello. Much love, hugs, and kisses. Welcome to the room. Please, on your way in, hit that thumbs up. Thank you, that like. It's good to see you all. So, I know I said I was going to do it yesterday, but I needed to rest, so I took my rest. I'm here today to continue Be More Careful by the king of urban fiction, Shannon Holmes. Okay? Shannon Holmes wrote his first novel, Be More Careful, while in prison. When it was published, Be More Careful immediately became a #1 bestseller, making him a major name in a new generation of hip-hop fiction. He followed Be More Careful with the bestsellers Bad Girls and Never Go Home Again. He lives in North Carolina with his wife and their 2 daughters. Okay. So now I'm starting on chapter 3. I'm going to see how far we get today, okay? So I hope you don't mind if I just hit it. You know, I will wait for some more butts in the seats. But those that are here are meant to be here. And those that catch it on replay are meant to catch it on replay. All right, let's go. Chapter 3. Hitting in the hole. Boy and girl. Cop and bop. It's hot out here. A worker shouted in the alley. Line up. No change, no singles, and unball that money, another yelled. This was the concrete jungle Mimi had to navigate every morning on her way to parochial school. I'm happy with the pronunciation. Passing dozens of dealers, and that's wrong what I just said. I'm going to read that sentence again. This was the concrete jungle Mimi had to navigate every morning on her way to parochial school, passing dozens of dealers and fiends alike. Her only comfort was that she knew no one would dare bother her. Everyone knew Mimi and her notorious father, not to mention her twin brothers. The twins were 2 of the biggest drug dealers in Baltimore. Her father was an aging gangster who was still widely respected. North Avenue and Long were her block. It was one of the main drug strips in all of Baltimore. It was just a notch below the notorious Pennsylvania Avenue and Gold. Fiends from far and wide came here to sample some of the best dope and coke in the city. Her new neighborhood was a far cry from her former county residence. But since her parents' breakup, Mimi's brother, Tina, wanted nothing from her father. Oh, my bad. I read that wrong. But since her parents' breakup, Mimi's mother, Tina, wanted nothing from her father, not even financial assistance. Humbling herself, Tina wanted no parts of her ex-gangster husband and her ex-gangster life. It was tiring, draining life she had lived for most of her young and adult life. She didn't want it anymore, and she didn't care about the money. So, Tina had no choice. She went back to work saving just enough to buy a row house for her and her 3 children. Tamia Johnson, aka Mimi, was the baby of her family. She was also the only girl. Her family consisted of her 2 twin brothers, Timothy, aka Tim Tim, and Thomas, aka Tommy. Her mother, Tina, and her father, Willie Johnson. A product of a failed marriage, Mimi's dad dropped out of her daily life at the tender age of 10. The breakup was due to the constant argument over Willie's women, or legally speaking, mistresses. And when he left, this caused the family foundation to crack. The man of the house was gone. So, her stable family, which was once a blessing to Mimi, slowly turned into a curse. Too young for Mimi to understand, her father Willie was from the old school. He was an old-time hustler. He had a gang of women and illegitimate kids. He also had several bars scattered all over Baltimore. This is what caused the problems in his marriage. He believed it was all right for a man to be a man, as long as he took care of home. And Willie did that. His family was well taken care of. They never knew what it was like to do without. Willie was a very good hustler, and as a result, his family was what you would call ghetto rich. Tina, in her own right, was a beautiful woman, and one would wonder why a man would stray. What was it that she did not do right to keep Willie happy at home? Beautiful inside and out, with a perfect size 7'8" frame. Tina had traces of French and Indian mixed with her African heritage. Exotic eyes, glowing Hawaiian-looking skin, and fine jet black hair were some of Tina's best attributes of beauty. One look, and you'd have to look twice. A fine homekeeper, doting over her husband and her children, from the time she awoke until sleep fell upon her at night. She stayed on top of every duty that was a good, loving wife and mother was supposed to. Beautiful, strong, and extremely talented in the art of painting, Tina tolerated her husband's sleeping around for many years before she finally put her foot down. Maybe it was raising the children when they were young that kept her occupied in her home life, or perhaps the days of idling away time on canvas that kept the marriage together. Tina didn't have that answer. But now the kids were older, and her home life wasn't happy. It was hard because Willie was a good father and a good provider. She loved him deeply, but fed up and ready to do Tina, she issued an ultimatum to Willie: either them or me. Them being the other female she called his whores, and me being the kids and her. It was a choice he had to make. He took the easy way out, convincing himself he wore the pants in the family, and no woman would tell him what to do, wife or no wife. He packed his things and left, moving in with one of his young tramps, according to Tina's book. Although he hated to leave his wife and kids, he was so set in his ways, he thought, why stop now? His movements hadn't been restricted since he did his first and last bid in the penitentiary. From then on, he swore that would never happen again. No one would ever control him, and he meant it. Besides her mother, it was Mimi who missed her dad the most. She was Daddy's little girl. She had him wrapped around her finger since the day she was born. He spoiled Mimi, rotten, giving her everything she wanted. Stop giving her that candy, Willie. She's not going to be good for nothing when she gets older, scolded Tina. Shut up, woman. It's my baby girl right here. You ain't got nothing to do with this, Tina, said Willie, picking his baby off the floor and giving her a big bear hug. That's how it was, too. All her life, Mimi had Daddy. If Mommy wouldn't, she knew Daddy would. And the world was a perfect place to be until they separated and divorced. Coming home one day from summer camp, Mimi couldn't help but smile at her father's red Porsche parked outside their door. Daddy's here, she thought as her smile widened. Mimi opened the door as her parents sat side by side on the couch, both stopping whatever conversation they were having as they looked straight ahead in her direction. What? Are you guys getting back together? Asked Mimi, desperately wanting to believe God answered her prayers. No, baby girl. We've decided that Catholic school would be best for you, said Willie. Who the hell decided that? Thought teen Mimi as she smiled in return to Daddy, clouding her forehead at her mother, knowing it had to be her. Much love, hugs, and kisses to those coming in the room. But no whistle. Daddy, I don't want to go to Catholic school, said Mimi, looking at her mother, knowing that he'd be the one to handle the situation. However, Mimi thought wrong. It was his idea to enroll her in a Catholic school. And when Willie Johnson wanted something, he got it. The problem was that at 14 years of age, Mimi would never be able to understand the word no. No one had ever taught her the meaning of the word. Mimi didn't understand why her father wasn't giving her her way. He tried explaining that it was a better quality education compared to the public schools. I only want what's best for you. I would spend my last dollar making sure you got the best. Do you understand, Mimi? He said with his hands snugly wrapped around his young daughter's shoulders. No, she cried out as tears ran down her face. I don't want to go. Dad, please, I don't want to, cried Mimi. It was a performance deserving of an Oscar nomination, but it was a waste of time. What Willie wanted was for his daughter to be in a structured and disciplined environment, unlike the city public schools, where the kids ran wild. Them girls were pregnant and not dressing right as far as he was concerned. Shoot, the young girls were off the hook in his book. He didn't care what it took or what it cost. He would spare every dime he had to make sure Mimi turned out a good and respectable girl, no matter what the cost. He wanted something better for Mimi. So St. Agnes Patrick Catholic School for Girls is where Mimi would be. And that was the end of that. Now his sons, they were a different story. He wanted them to be rough and rugged. He didn't want no sissies for sons. He wanted them to come up the same way he did, the hard way. Secretly, he was grooming his sons from the start for the game. He wanted them to follow his footsteps. So, he encouraged them by letting them watch while he counted his money and cut dope. He took them along while he made moves, exposing them to the street life. All this was unknown to Tina. She was too busy worrying about another woman near her children. Where'd your daddy take you today? That was the first question she asked when they came home. All she was ever concerned with was which slut's house did her father take them to. She never in a million years would have thought that they were watching their father conduct illegal drug activity. So, letting boys be boys, she turned them loose, knowing they couldn't come home pregnant. It was Mimi who she reserved her rules and restrictions for. A clear double standard. Mimi couldn't understand why she couldn't do as her twin brothers did. As she grew up, Mimi understood the importance of role playing, and she did it well. Mimi's personality at home and school was like night and day. She was Miss Innocent around her mother and father, seemingly to be the perfect daughter. But Mimi was sneaky. Her act was for appearances only. At school, she was off the hook, curious by nature, though not yet sexually active. Young Mimi was ready to explore her body and the bodies of the opposite sex. Her womanly features were already bulging from beneath her school uniform. By the time high school rolled around, Mimi successfully managed to get thrown out of the all-girls Catholic school. Of course, she did it on purpose. He say, she say incident sparked a fight between Mimi and a white girl, which led to a which led to a mini race riot at the school. This forced her mother's hand into letting her attend a public school, Edmondson High. Extremely pretty, Mimi had no problems finding attention. It followed her like a bad shadow. In school, she had already gotten a bad reputation. The boys considered her a dick teaser, and so they teased her. Dick teaser was just one of the nicer labels they slapped on her. One boy even spread a rumor and told everyone that once while fondling her, he smelt his fingers and they smelled like fish. Fish Market Mimi is what they called her behind her back. Mimi was frisky and experimental with boys, even though she never let them go all the way. She did play the finger game, rubbing genitals and grinding real hard under bleachers, in school closets, and once even in the boys' locker room, in a bathroom stall. Had her twin brothers known what was going on at school with their hot in the pants little sister, they would have embarrassed her and fought all the guys trying to take advantage of her. They were fiercely protective of their little sister. The family name had to be upheld at all costs. Never would they let anybody disrespect those two things. Aspiring kingpins, with their father's blessing, the twins dropped out of Edmondson and jumped headfirst into the game. They got put on their feet by their dad. He gave them 2 ounces of raw dope on consignment. He also made it perfectly clear that this was a one-shot deal. Win, lose, or draw. They wasn't getting no more. The dope was the bomb, but raw was questionable. Put it like this, it was as raw as the ghetto got it. Tim and Tommy hustled hard and quickly blew up. They were making a name for themselves as two money making, no nonsense brothers. But the twins went against the grain while doing their thing, violating one of the game's golden rules: don't shit where you eat. They hustled on their own block, defying conventional wisdom, and this mistake would cost them dearly. None the wiser to her son's activities, Tina was too preoccupied with Mimi and work. The latter was a replacement for her love life. She chose to stay single. She wanted to set an example for her daughter. Tina had only been with one man in her entire life. She didn't want to bring any strange men around Mimi. Working hard was one way she kept her sanity and fulfilled her vow to stay independent of all men. For too many years, she depended on Willie for her well being, but never again. Never again. Mimi bore the brunt of her mother's newfound feminist attitude. Tina pushed Mimi to excel in school, so she'd always be independent of the opposite sex, trying to make her something she would never be. Wanting the best for Mimi, she went about it the wrong way. The more she pushed, the more Mimi pulled, simply rebelling against her. The streets were watching, because they always do. The twins were stepping on toes. Their dope was too good for their own good, knocking cats out the box. Late night when their shop closed seemed to be the only time other hustlers could get a little money. On the block, animosity towards the twins was growing daily. The first of the month fell on a Friday. Business was booming, and as usual, the block was packed. To an innocent bystander, the long lines must have looked like a free cheese line. The twins were operating at full capacity, handling an excessive amount of money and dope, running in and out, back and forth, to their stash house. The twins, their lieutenants, and the workers attracted a lot of unwanted attention. Parked a half block away from the block sat a stolen Hunter Green Cherokee. Its passengers, two stick-up kids, waiting patiently to mark the spot. All morning long they traced the twins' steps from the stash house to the alley where the sales were made. They watched. Having seen enough transactions for the day and satisfied the money was right, the Hunter Green Cherokee drove away from the block. It was time to put the other part of their plan in effect. Stashed in secret compartments in the trunks of their cars, the twins had a little over $100,000 in cash. They always split up the money and took separate routes to Tim's condo in Owings Mills. The reason for this was just in case the police stopped them. The whole stash would never be taken. As clever as they thought they were, this precaution didn't prevent them from previously being followed. They always drove straight home, never taking any detours to shake anybody that might be tailing them. Up until this point in the game, the twins had it pretty easy. Besides a few minor squabbles, the twins rolled with easy punches. They had yet to pay their dues, having never seen the flip side of the game. Robbery, kidnapping, extortion, and murder were all a part of the drug game. The part plenty of hustlers never spoke for. Just as hard as the twins worked to make money, somebody was working extra hard to take it. The jingling of keys outside the apartment door alerted the two armed intruders of the twins' arrival. Quietly positioned in the blind spot of the living room apartment, one had a 9mm Glock and the other had a Tech 9 assault weapon. Both were cocked and ready. Crouched on the side of the wall, guns drawn, they anxiously waited for the twins to enter the house to spring their trap. Lost in their thoughts, perhaps the twins hadn't noticed the green Hunter Jeep parked in one of their parking spots. The same Hunter Green Jeep the same Hunter Green Jeep they should have noted was up the block every day for the past 2 weeks. Whenever the case may have been, they unlocked the door and entered the condo. Tommy was the first to enter with his duffel bag. He was followed closely by Tim, who was carrying his. Tim paused to lock the door while his brother walked past the kitchen into the living room. Out of nowhere, and like a strike of lightning, Tommy was taken by surprise. Two figures appeared, and fear struck him like a scary movie as a stick-up kid pointed a gun at his head. The other stood gallantly, pointing a gun to his brother's back. Turning around after locking the door, a startled Tim uttered a curse. Oh shit! They had dropped on them, and there was nothing the twins could do about it. All right, motherfuckers, y'all know what time it is. Don't make this no motherfucking homicide, said Mo, the wildest of the two. Drop them bags right there and do it real slow. One wrong move and I'll make both of y'all a statistic. The twins did what they were told, both placing their bags where they were standing. Now, put your hands high where I can see them. Both of y'all, come over here and sit on the couch, said Mo, waving his Tech 9 at both of them as they moved. Mo was an old pro at stick-up, and at times he had an itchy trigger finger. Overly cautious, he'd seen a lot of stick-up kids get killed for being sloppy. He didn't plan on adding his name to that list. Hold up, he said to his hat-wearing partner. Pat them niggas down, make sure they ain't holding no heat or stashing no dough, said Mo. Though he wore a baseball cap pulled tightly over his head, the twins still recognized him immediately. It was Dave, the same Dave who used to work for them, until they caught him stealing and Tim pistol whipped him and made Dave walk home naked on the Baltimore-Washington Expressway. This other cat, Mo, was a mystery man to them. He was very hostile and the one calling the shots. Something else seriously troubled the twins. Why hadn't they bothered to wear masks? With his eyes, Mo shot daggers at the twins, trying to intimidate them. He watched closely as they were searched, clutching his gun like a vice grip and paranoid. He wasn't taking any chances. He knew that the twins were two dangerous dudes. Rumor had it they had a few bodies themselves. Before Dave busied himself with the task of patting down the twins, he handed Mo his gun. Careful not to walk in Mo's line of fire, he began to pat down Tommy. They had rehearsed their parts well. However, Dave was weak and it was beginning to show. He wouldn't return the mean looks that the twins shot at him. He pretended not to see them. Even as powerless as they were, he still feared them. As he began to pat down Tim, his hand ran across the butt of a small caliber gun. He pulled it out of Tim's groin. It was a small black .22. Without taking his eyes off the twins, he reached back and handed the .22 to Mo. Y'all motherfuckers got anything else on you I should know about? 'Cause the next surprise like that, and I'll start blasting both y'all asses, the angry mole coldly stated. No, dog, that's it, yo, Tommy quickly said, trying to keep the hot-headed mole calm. He had a bad vibe about this dude. Dave emptied out their pockets and taking the couple G's in petty cash they had between them. He then took their platinum linked chains with matching Zodiac pendants, 2 cell phones, and their Frank Mueller watches. Stripped of all their valuables, Mo began questioning them. Yo, how much loot in them bags? He asked, directing his questions to no one in particular. Without waiting for an answer, he answered himself, asking, what, 60, 70 G's? Mo made a living taking money, but he never came upon anything as big as this string. As this sting. His eyes were used to seeing chump change. He was a petty robber, used to sticking up corner hustlers. Anybody with some common sense would have guessed higher. The 5s, 10s, and 20s all bundled in the bag gave it an appearance that it was less than it was. Obviously, only to Mo. The twins merely nodded their heads at any amount of money he suggested, not wanting to help him out at all. Never receiving a clear answer, Mo went along with them. Damn, y'all niggas getting money, huh? He asked, sounding like Juvie. Then he flipped the script. Now where's the rest of it at? To show them he meant business, he put the barrel of the gun to Tim Tim's temple. Motherfucker, I know y'all got a nice fat stash. I want that too. What the fuck is he doing? I came here to get this paper and that's it. Now this greedy motherfucker on some other shit, Dave thought to himself as he looked over at Mo, wondering what was going on. Other than being a coward, Dave's problem was he thought too small. Yo, we ain't holding like that. That shit is a rumor. You know how niggas talk, said Tim lying, trying to throw them off, but Mo wasn't going for it. He knew better. He had been watching them for weeks. Mo was on a mission, and he'd come too far to leave with just this. He never had big money in his life. Now he stumbled across some major players. He wanted it all. He was prepared to kill for it. Mo had killed many a man for much less. Before another lie could fly out of Tim Tim's mouth, Mo quickly raised his gun, striking him hard with the butt. The blow was so severe it knocked out a tooth. Blood poured from Tim Tim's mouth to the carpet. Instinctively, Tommy took a step toward Mo, trying to protect his brother. Mo reacted by taking a half step backward and aiming the gun in his direction. Yeah, nigga, I wish you would. Give me a reason to send you to your maker, motherfucker. Take another step. I dare you, said Mo. Realizing he was in a no-win situation, Tommy declined to take him up on his offer, even though Mo was bluffing. He couldn't kill one of them till they told him what he needed to know, where the stash was. Now I'm going to give y'all one more chance, yo. Try to play me like I'm dumb again and y'all both dead. I'ma count to 3, and by the time I get there, one of y'all better tell me what I want to know, or I'll kill one of you while the other watches, said Mo, feeling undoubted about what he was prepared to do. 1, he said, slowly starting the countdown. Tommy's mind was racing. His heart was pounding fast. He thought to himself, this is it. His brother could be so stubborn at times, but now wasn't the time to be. However, if Tim Tim didn't tell him where the stash was, then neither would be. Tommy was willing to ride or die for his brother. Born together, die together, if need be. 2! shouted Mo. There was an eerie silence in the room. Tim Tim stood defiant, his life flashing before his eyes. He thought of his mother, his little sister, his twin, and death. He didn't want to come up off the stash. What would Dad do? Popped in his head. The paper can be replaced, he thought, still wondering what Dad would do. Before Mo could carry out his threat, he reluctantly began to speak in an attempt to save their lives. Yo, the stash is at my brother's crib. There's 300,000 here. You can have it. Just let me and my brother go, Tim Tim admitted. And this was the truth. All right now you talking, yo. You see how easy that was? When everybody cooperates, nobody gets hurt, Mo said sarcastically. Listen, Dave, Mo said, blowing Dave up. Take Tommy back to his crib and get that loot. Make him drive his car. Leave the Cherokee here for me, said Mo, calling the shots. There was no question who was in control. If that nigga there tries anything funny or that money ain't right, smoke him, he said, referring to Tommy, shooting an evil sneer at both Tommy and Tim Tim. Dave agreed, and Tommy just looked at his brother. I'm give y'all a half hour to get there and back with the stash. If anything should happen to my man, if he don't come back or call me within that time, your brother's a dead man, Mo said, looking dead at Tommy. Dave grabbed a large beach towel out of the linen closet. He wrapped it around his hand and lower arm to conceal the weapon he held, placing the barrel of the gun in the small of Tommy's back. He gave him a firm nudge towards the door. But before heading out the door, the twins stared at each other briefly. Tim Tim looked at his brother. No one needed to say a word. The little niggas were twins, and once they made eye contact, one could always tell what the other was thinking. This is it, yo. I got a funny feeling about this nigga. This shit ain't right. Hurry up back, thought Tim Tim, staring at his brother for what he was sure would be the last time. Tommy sent him back a telepathic message with his eyes. We coming up out of this shit, nigga. I'll be right back. Be strong. This shit ain't over yet, baby. Tommy could feel the steel barrel of the gun pressed upon his back. He turned from his brother, breaking their private conversation. Dave led him out the door to go and retrieve the stash. Much love, hugs, and kisses to everyone entering the room. We're currently in chapter 3. As the door closed, Tim Tim's heart began to pound. He didn't even want to look Mo's way, but just exactly where was this motherfucker? His heart began to pound as he thought of the nigga right behind his left ear. Why this shit happening? Dave's ignorant ass. Wait till I get a hold of that motherfucker. He quietly prayed these two robbers wouldn't do anything stupid. But it didn't look good for the home team. Don't look over here at me, motherfucker, shouted Mo as Tim quickly turned his head, finally satisfied on knowing a nigga's position. Meanwhile, Tommy and Dave had made it out the building and were walking in the parking lot. I can't believe this shit. How the fuck is Dave robbing me? This weak bitch ass nigga, and the other one that's a greedy motherfucker? Why he just didn't take the bags and keep it moving? The home team was definitely hurting right now. Tommy quickly thought of the many choices he had at that very moment as Dave opened the driver's side door and instructed him to get in. He did, and watched as Dave walked across the front of the car with the gun pointed at him through the windshield. I got a plan for your ass, you simple bitch ass nigga, thought Tommy as he watched Dave plant his ass in his passenger seat. I hope this motherfucker worked. So, my darlings, that's chapter 3. What do you think so far? Who's out there? I hope you're enjoying it. I'm just wetting my whistle. And I'll start on do we need a break? Because if not, I'll just go right into chapter 4. Do we need a break, a music break? Anyone needs to stretch their legs, get a glass of water, anything? If not, I'll continue. Alrighty then. 1 second. I'll wet my whistle again. Thank you, Carlotta. I hope you all are enjoying the book. Okay. Chapter 4. Tim Tim watched Mo in the unlit room make his way over to the stereo system. His movements were offbeat yet systematic. Keeping an eye on Tim Tim while he fumbled over the buttons, he quickly found the power button and pressed it, bringing the stereo alive with lights and sound. Puccini filtered through the speakers, echoing Tosca in the air through the room. Tim Tim looked up at Mo, and in Mo's black coat eyes, he saw death staring at him. Simultaneously, and still systematic, Mo began to press the button, raising the volume higher and higher as he thought of Tommy and Dave returning with the money. Yes, his life would be different after tonight. This is what he had been waiting for so long. A real jackpot to call his own. The money the twins had was his jackpot, and he was going to collect it. After realizing the volume would go no louder, he quickly turned around and aimed the gun like a sharpshooter, hitting Tim Tim 3 times in the head. Tim Tim's body slumped to the floor. His inner self laid next to him in a pool of blood. Mo knew he couldn't rob these cats and expect to live. It was do or die, so they had to go. He turned the radio back to off, and still systematically, he walked over to Tim Tim's lifeless body, reaching down to check his neck and then his wrist, making sure there was no pulse. There was none. He sat down on the couch next to where Tim Tim had just been sitting. He waited patiently, not even blinking, just thinking and hoping that Dave handled his end and took care of Tommy after Tommy turned over the dough. I hope this nigga ain't fucking nothing up. While driving to his spot where the 300,000 was stashed, Tommy miraculously discovered that Dave didn't know his way once they were outside of Baltimore. So, Tommy took him on a scenic route, and Dave was none the wiser as to what was going on. Driving through the strip, he hoped to spot some of his wild-ass young boys, but he had no such luck. Where the fuck are all my dogs at? Tommy thought to himself. Remembering he was on the clock, he headed home. He tried to make small talk, but Dave wasn't feeling into it, keeping his screw face on. Dave said nothing. Yo, why you doing this, dawg? Tommy asked. You know me and you was cool. Before that shit went down, I used to look out for you, said Tommy, trying to play on his intelligence. When you got knocked, I bailed you out and paid for your lawyer. Plus, I was the one who put money in your pocket when you came home. Remember that shit? Said Tommy in a friendly tone. If you never did what you did, you'd still be down with the squad, said Tommy, reminding him of his good old days. His eyes cut in Dave's direction to see if his words had the desired effect on him. But still, there was no response. He tried again, anyway. Remember when you came home and we threw that party for you with all those strippers and shit? You was doing your thing that night, right, dawg? He asked, hoping to jog his memory. That's the game, yo. Besides, y'all was having the party for Scotty's birthday, and you just decided to make the shit about me since I was coming home. Y'all niggas was already having a party, y'all, said Dave coldly under his breath. He was on alert. His gun was pointed directly at Tommy's kidney, just in case Tommy thought about slamming on the brakes or doing anything funny, he'd be shot. What? Tommy couldn't believe his ears. Dave actually said something. Tommy's words had finally hit home. Dave was actually beginning to wonder why he even set the twins up. Tommy was right. They had looked out for him till he got his sticky fingers. They were better to him than anybody he ever worked for. His conscience was eating him up, but Mo's orders were pushing him on. They already had more than enough cash back at Tim Tim's crib to live real good. But for Mo, it wasn't enough. Damn, it's like that, dog? Tommy sincerely inquired. Listen, I'll make a deal with you, yo. When we get to where we going, just give me $50K, and we'll call it a day, said Dave, looking to see how Tommy would react to his request. After you give me the dough, you gotta promise me you won't try to get me back, he said, copping a plea. Even though he was robbing them, he still feared them. He's seen their work in the past. Yo, I won't. You got my word. I swear, he said, faking concern. Tommy tried to reassure him everything would end right there, and that all would be forgotten, and everything was cool. He knew in his heart, however, that the next time he saw Mo or Dave in this life or the next, he'd kill them both. At this point, Dave was just trying to save his own ass. He just wanted the money so he could roll out. He was already fantasizing about what he would do with the loot. He was going down south where he'd be safe from Mo and the twins. In the back of his mind, Dave knew he'd never be safe in B-More, not after what he'd just done. Arriving at their destination, a nervous Dave was still gripping his gun, fearing for his own safety, until the money was in his hands and he was on I-95 headed south. He wouldn't feel safe. As they exited the car, he followed Tommy in the cover of darkness to his door. Reaching the door, Dave stood directly behind Tommy. He scanned the half-complete, slightly deserted townhouses for any signs of a setup. Open the door, said Dave. I don't have my keys. Remember you took them from me, asked Tommy. I got to knock on the door. Don't worry, ain't nobody stay here but my girl and me, said Tommy as if he wasn't lying. Instantly, Dave got suspicious. Yo, you ain't say nothing about no girl? I hope you ain't trying to pull a fast one, said Dave. Be cool, yo. It ain't nothing like that. Don't worry, I got you. You the one looking out for me, remember? Asked Tommy back at him. Tommy walked up to the door. He knocked hard on it 3 times in rapid succession. Not once, but twice. He heard his girl come to the door and look through the peephole. The look on his face told her what to do. Tommy, she screamed from behind the door as he dived to the ground. 10 shots from inside the house ripped through the door, turning it into Swiss cheese. Dave's upper torso absorbed all 10 shots, jerking his body backwards. He was dead before he hit the concrete. The one precaution the twins had took in case of unwanted guests paid off. Never in their wildest dreams did they believe they'd have to use it, but they practiced it anyway. Now, thanks to his girl Gina, the money was safe. That's why Tommy dealt with her. She was a soldier, and he knew he could count on her to shoot first and ask questions later. It took both of them to drag the body inside the house and down to the basement. There would be time later to clean up the blood and get rid of any evidence. Right now, he only had time to grab his bulletproof vest, his 44 caliber Desert Eagle, and briefly explain to Gina what was going on. He was in a race against time and had wasted 45 minutes already, and he only had 15 minutes left to rescue his brother. He prayed that it wasn't too late. Pacing the floor, Mo anxiously awaited his crime partner's return. Having already ransacked the house and finding nothing but drug paraphernalia, scales, vials, baggies, measuring spoons, and cut, he was pissed that he couldn't find any dope. Petty ass Mo did manage to find a couple pair of gator shoes, some sweaters, and leather jackets in a trash bag and placed it by the door. Yes, he most certainly was taking that too. Those shoes fit him perfectly, and so did the butter leathers. What the fuck is taking so long? He wondered. Mo knew he should have brought someone else along, but he had nixed that idea because he was too greedy to divide the pie 3 ways. Mo wanted it all for himself. I hope this nigga takes care of business, thought Mo. If everything was everything, Mo figured he'd be on his way in the next 30 minutes without Dave. He had no intention of splitting shit with Dave. Not one penny. Dave was weak. That shook ass nigga served his purpose by putting him down with the heist. One time when Mo was ready to move out on the twins before, Dave got cold feet and didn't show up. This time he had to actually threaten him to come along. Looking down at the 2 bags of money, Mo began to lust. Finally, he was paid. Now, he could stop robbing. He could be the big-time dope dealer he always wanted to be and ball the fuck out. He wanted to be mentioned in the same breath as the big-time hustlers he heard about when he was a kid. Names like Peanut King and Joe Dancer. He wanted to shine and be immortalized in street tales for years to come. Damn, I wish this nigga would hurry up with my money, thought Mo as he looked down at his wrist. Frank is really telling the time, he thought to himself, looking at his new watch. Doing over 100 miles per hour in his Nissan 300ZX twin turbo, Tommy was driving like a madman. He and Gina were rushing back to Tim Tim's condo. He had murder on his mind. If anything happened to his brothers, there would be hell to pay. His co-defendant, Gina, was down for whatever. Ding dong! The bell startled Mo out of his thoughts. He was so happy Dave had returned. Now he could get the show on the road. Kill Dave, kill the other twin, take the money, and go about his business. It was a simple plan. So simple. Wasn't no way he couldn't execute it. Ding dong! It went off again before he could make it to the door. Peeping through the Venetian blinds out of the kitchen window, he didn't see the car. The parking spot was empty. It then dawned on him that whoever it was on the bell was already in the building. They had bypassed the intercom system. Mo quickly snuck over to the peephole and looked out. What he saw on the other side of the door was a beautiful, dark-skinned woman in a form-fitting dress, tapping her foot impatiently. She waited for a response from inside the house. Not expecting anybody but Dave, he was caught off guard. Who the fuck is this? Mo thought. Confused, he walked away from the door, trying to gather his thoughts. He hoped she'd get the message that nobody was home and leave. He cursed himself, remembering that Tim Tim's car was parked out front. Suddenly, suddenly she banged at the door, again real loud, as if she was kicking on it, trying to break it down. Tim Tim, open up this damn door. I know you in there. I saw your car outside. Shit, Mo cursed under his breath. Hesitant, he still was unsure of what to do. Open the damn door! Why I got to ring the bell, Tim Tim? Why? If you in there with another bitch, I'm whooping her ass, then yours, she said loudly at the door. Fearing all this noise would arouse the neighbor's suspicions, he had no choice but to let her in and knock her noisy ass off too. Excuse me. Yeah, that was right. Noisy. Yeah. I ain't mean laugh at that. This ain't no funny part. But to let her in and knock her noisy ass off too. While Gina played her part distracting Mo, Tommy had swung around the back of the building and climbed up the balcony to his brother's second floor apartment. From the shadows, he watched the scene play itself out, trying to locate his brother. Then, and only then, could he spring into action. The only thing that was separated Mo from death was a sliding plate glass window. Kneeling, holding his gun low, he scanned the living room in a desperate search for his brother. Then a strange feeling came over him. A wave of nothingness entered his body, and his eye landed on his brother, lying balled up in a fetal position on the floor. His glassy, lifeless eyes were staring right at him as his head lay surrounded in a pool of blood. The realization that his brother was dead hit him like a hard brick thrown in his face. A feeling of rage to the place of pain that rips open the heart is exactly what he felt at that moment. In third person, Tommy jumped through the plate glass door, Desert Eagle blazing his entrance. Boom! 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 A pause. Then boom! Was all that could be heard. The sound of shattering glass, followed by 5 loud thunderclaps of gunfire, took Mo by surprise. Just as he was opening the door, he was hit. The first shot caught him in the side, disabling him and dropping him on impact. The others missed his head by inches, knocking huge chunks of plaster out the wall. Tommy kept coming, firing as he advanced. He stepped over his brother's body and crushed the shreds of glass that had fallen. He didn't care about the neighbors and fuck the police. Raving mad, Tommy had blood in his eyes. He was going to have his revenge, for nothing else mattered. Revenge would give Mo a closed casket funeral. He walked upon his squirming victim and looked down at him. Please, please, don't kill me, Mo said weakly, now pleading for his own life without absolutely any regard for the life he had just taken. Mo could feel his soul leaving his body. His insides were on fire, and all he could do was beg Tommy not to kill him. Immune to his pleas, full of revenge, and on the strength of his brother, Tommy stuck the gun in Mo's mouth and squeezed the trigger, blowing a hole in the back of Mo's neck. As if nothing had happened, he immediately stood and looked down at his lifeless opponent. Leaving third person, he turned back to Mo's dead body. Slowly, he walked over to his brother and knelt down against his cold, lifeless body, laying his head on Tim Tim's cheek. I took the nigga out, Tim Tim. I took him out for you, he said, now cradling his brother in his lap as tears streamed down his face. Tommy, said Gina, moving towards him. Go! He shouted, pointing to the door with his gun as he heard her voice, almost forgetting she was there. Please, just go. Please, go. He ordered wiping his tears, not wanting to share them with her, only with his brother. Gina not needing to go through it, with Tommy waving his gun around and shit. Rolled out. She had a dead body at his house to deal with, and knew just who could take care of it. The news of Tim Tim's death and Tommy's arrest drove their mother hysterical. Found right next to his dead brother's body, gun in hand, Tommy was promised to see life in prison. The grief and depression consumed Tina. Stress gripped the family as a whole. Under a doctor's prescription for Zoloft to help her make it through the funeral and burial of her dead son, and the realization that her other son was facing life in prison, this was the point in her life, in her time of suffering, that she turned to the Lord. She found religion and ran with it. She was a borderline religious fanatic, and to some degree, the word cult would even be appropriate. For Mimi, she was the exact opposite, not quite as open for believing as her mother. Mimi fell face first into negativity. She stopped caring about everybody and everything, including herself. Anybody who was somebody on the streets, hundreds of peoples, junkies, hustlers, friends, and females packed March's funeral parlor to pay their last respects to Tim Tim. He was heavily respected and known throughout B-More for playing fair. If he did something to anybody, more than likely they had it coming to them. All the hustlers in the hood got together and did something unprecedented. Everybody closed up shop simultaneously. Shit shut down during the hours of his wake and funeral. Not a nickel vial of coke or a dime bag of dope was sold. It was like the whole city stopped to say goodbye. Months after the funeral, T-shirts bearing his likeness with the inscription reading, "Super Tim, we miss you," were being worn by everyone in the city. After burying one son, Tina faced the inevitable dilemma, the murder trial of her other son. Armed with her newfound faith in God and Mimi dragging behind her on her arm, she made her way to the courthouse to support her son. Unfortunately, a mother's love and good intentions can only go so far in the legal system. Testifying as a character witness for her son, Tina talked about his nice childhood and good upbringing, but Mother Teresa and Perry Mason couldn't beat this case for Tommy. It was high profile and well publicized, which wasn't in Tommy's favor at all. Not to mention, he had, not to mention, had his black ass before an all-white jury. Not to mention, okay. Somebody made a correction here. Not to mention, they had his black ass before an all-white jury, unfortunately, in the county. Even if he was innocent, with the media and jury in front of him, the brother would still be in jail. Tommy never had a chance. The deck was stacked and the cards were marked from the gate. The prosecutor painted a perfect picture of the influx of drugs, guns, and murder. Subsequently, Tommy was tried and convicted, then sentenced to life in prison. The prosecutor went straight for premeditated murder, convincing the jury that Tommy had every opportunity to alert the authorities. The prosecutor called it revenge and referred to Tommy's action as street justice. Thanks to his girl Gina, he didn't get charged with double murder. Gina called his father and Willie got rid of the other body. Tina ultimately lost two sons, one to prison and the other to an early grave. In her everyday life, she only had one remaining child, Mimi, and she vowed to protect her from harm. It was so funny when one reflected on one's past and one's life. All those years with Willie, the lifestyle and the drugs, never had it affected her directly, only indirectly, being the cash Willie provided her with. All the shopping, all the spending, flying to Vegas just to cop a shirt, all the years that had gone by. For every dollar, what a price to pay. Her own children. Tina hurt for her dead son, and she prayed for her son that was left. A life in prison is better than no life at all. Her children's lives were all that mattered since the day she had given them life. It was all she could do to maintain. It was so bad for Tina trying to cope that Willie had to be on standby and was over her house every day checking on her. In light of the recent drama involving the twins, and considering all the adversity they faced together, Tina tried desperately to reestablish a strong mother daughter relationship. But Mimi wasn't having it. She didn't want to be smothered with love from her mother. She wanted time alone to mourn and remember her brother. There was no timetable for grieving. Mimi was especially close to Tim Tim, so it was hard for her to accept that he was gone. Tommy's life sentence was even harder for her to accept. Judging by appearance, she took it all well on the outside, but on the inside, it was another matter. She was confused and naive to the harshness of the game. Facing life without her brothers, her protectors, her bridge for her bridge for troubled waters, the future looked bleak in her eyes. Mimi became withdrawn. Her room became her cocoon. She never left it. She felt abandoned by all the men which were ever in her life. First her father, now her brothers. Doors once closed to Mimi were now open, literally flung wide open for her to walk through. She started hanging with some fast girls she met in school. She partied heavily, making her way through the club circuit, from Hammer Jacks, the Underground, to the Paradox. Miss Mimi was in the house. She was like a shaking can of carbonated soda, and Tina was the one who popped the lid, realizing her daughter was out of control. There was nothing Tina could say or do to make Mimi mind her. Concerned for her daughter, she had her pastor come over and talk to her. When that didn't work, in a last-ditch effort, she solicited help from Mimi's father. Talk to her. Please. Talk some sense into your daughter. That's what Tina kept asking him to do. Willie tried to be the dad he had always wanted to be. He tried lecturing his daughter on the evils of the streets. But it was too much, too little, too late. He couldn't get through to her. She wasn't feeling any women. She wasn't feeling anything he was trying to say. Where were you when I really needed you? She sat there asking him that question in her mind as his speech continued. That shit was going in one ear and out the other. He wasn't all concerned no other time. Truthfully, he didn't think it was that bad. He knew Tina and how she reacted to everything. Besides, Mimi wasn't pregnant or doing badly in school. So what's your problem? This was just a phase she was going through. Or at least that's what Willie thought. A female problem best left between two females, mother and daughter. He did what he could, then washed his hands of the situation. 1 second to wet my palate. How we doing out there? Here we go. Disobedience filled Mimi's days. Her release, a temporary escape from reality, started the first time she smoked weed. She was hooked, loving the euphoric sensation. It made her feel happy and carefree. Getting blunted and partying became Mimi's favorite two pastimes. Mimi and her girls from school lived for the weekends. The clubs were the place to be for them to see and be seen. It was only a matter of time before Mimi's beauty caught some hustler's eye. Volcanoes was the hottest nightclub where everybody who was about something met and mingled. Hustlers, hoes, and anybody who was anybody came to socialize. On any given weekend, this was the place to be. Located in the heart of East Baltimore, Volcano stayed packed. It was only natural for Mimi and her crew to be up in there getting their groove on. And I'm going to pause here for 1 second because while this book is fiction, I would like to let you all know that all the names, like the clubs, were really clubs in that time, and what is said about them is true. The street locations are correct. All the names for the buildings, they're correct. The characters are fiction, but not the places and the street names, things like that. So Volcanoes is not a made up club. The club's sound system was banging. The DJ was on the turntable spinning the ones and twos. A local celebrity, Miss Tony, also real, rest in peace, was in the house, and the DJ began playing her song. Yo, this my cut, Mimi screamed in her friend's ear. The music almost drowned out her voice as she began dancing by herself and singing along with the music. What's up? What's up? Miss Tony say, how you gonna carry it? She chanted over and over. Clowning around with her girlfriends, Mimi busted out laughing. They all were high, so it didn't take much for them to catch a case of the giggles. Yo, I'm ready to get my drink on, said Petey. I'm with it too, said Mimi, seconding the motion. As they walked towards the bar, Mimi could feel all eyes on her. Heads turned and the stairs were long. While waiting on their drinks, the girls chatted with one another. As a hustler quicker and slicker than the rest stepped up to holler at Mimi. His name was Twan, a cornrow wearing, handsome, dark skinned brother hailing from East Baltimore's Greenmount Avenue. He was a young gun on the rise. He was seeing major paper, and with his good looks and his hustling skills, he was that nigger. The gift of gab came naturally to Twan. It stemmed from his time spent on the block trying to convince picky fiends to buy his product. He had no problem running game on the ladies either. Yo, shorty, put that money away. I got y'all, Twan said, flashing a large knot of cash with a friendly smile that revealed two front gold teeth. Playing hard to get and doing her best to look evil, Mimi said, we all right, yo, pretending not to have seen his pockets. She rolled her eyes and turned her head away. What I say, shorty? He replied, as if she was going to do as he said. My name ain't Shorty, it's Mimi, she snapped this time, getting a better look at him. Shorty, what's up with you? Yo? What, you want some antisocial shit or something? he asked real cool. Twan took Mimi's response as a challenge and paid for their drinks anyway. He sensed there was something special about this girl. She wasn't your average chicken head, because if she was, he would have slapped the taste out of her mouth. Instead, he cocked his head back and laughed, letting the insult slide. Dig Mimi, I didn't mean you no harm. My name is Twan, he said, flashing his gold teeth. But before he could follow that up with some super slick shit, the club suddenly exploded with gunfire. Boom, boom, boom! The gunshots echoed through the club walls, bringing an abrupt halt to the party atmosphere. Two rival drug cliques brought a territorial dispute to the club, as usual. Thinking fast, Twan grabbed Mimi and her girlfriend, pulling them both to the floor. With his body, he shielded Mimi from danger. Just as quickly as the shooting started, it stopped. Regaining his composure, he gathered up Mimi and her girlfriends. He then escorted them out the club and to his Land Rover. Yo, you alright? He asked, speeding away from the club and checking his rearview mirror for a response. Yeah, we cool. Stupid ass niggas always gotta fuck up a party, said Petey from the back seat. Mimi sat in the front, a little dazed and a little shook. That was the first shootout she had ever been in. It was hectic. The gunshots and screams had left echoes in her head. Can you take us home? A voice in the back asked. Suddenly, Twan realized he was driving aimlessly. He had a hard time concentrating on the road. He constantly looked over at Mimi, who was quiet. He turned on North Avenue and started taking direction to their individual homes in different parts of West Baltimore, Edmondson Village and Park Heights. Twan dropped them off one by one, saving Mimi's house for last. When he got to her block, he parked. Instead of pulling up in front of her door and dropping her off as he had her friends. Instantly they clicked. All the sarcasm that Mimi had earlier was gone. She appreciated the fact that he had shielded her, and for hours she sat in the car talking to him. The conversation varied from music to clothes. Then things turned personal. You got a girl? She asked. Nah, me and my girl broke up a couple months ago, Twan replied, lying. Why? A curious Mimi couldn't help but ask. A lot of reasons. To make a long story short, she didn't understand what I had to do. She said she did, but when it came time for her to demonstrate her understanding, she couldn't. She was real insecure. We used to argue every day, all day, sometimes for no reason at all, he said, running his game. Things got so bad, he continued. She used to try to swing on me. It's like she wanted me to hit her, and I don't get down like that. If I gotta hit a female, then I don't need her, he said, gaming, knowing damn right well he'd knock a broad out. His sincere facial expressions and the tone of his voice made him endearing to her. There was something about Twan that made Mimi want to go up to him. He wasn't like other guys. Effortlessly, their conversation flowed. He was so easy to talk to. Mimi definitely wanted to get to know him better. Before they both knew it, the sun was rising and the birds were chirping. They exchanged numbers and a brief kiss. Parting, Twan promised to call her soon. Mimi got out of his car and walked to her front door like she was floating on air. She wanted to get with him. Keeping his promise, he called a day later. Twan was ready to put his full court press on her. Hello, can I speak to Mimi? He politely asked. Speaking, she replied. What's up, shorty? Know who this is? Tuan playfully asked, trying to test her to see how many dudes may have been messing with. What I tell you about calling me shorty, nigga? She jokingly asked back, reminding him of when she snapped on him at the club. My bad, he said apologetically. Ah, I'm only playing, Tuan, she said, as if he could call her shorty or anything else he wanted to. Oh, what you about to do? He asked. Nothing, she quickly said. Well, get ready, 'cause I'm coming by to take you out, he said, just like that. The date was made. She was ecstatic. Excuse me. She was ecstatic that he was coming to get her. That evening, Tuan took her to the movies and to dinner, and Rusty Scuppers in the inner harbor. I don't know why they wrote that like that, because Rusty Scuppers is a restaurant. So I'm going to correct that. I don't like the way that was. That evening, Tuan took her to the movies and to dinner at Rusty Scuppers in the inner harbor. Over the following weeks, their dates turned into a whirlwind romance. Tuan and Mimi went to the comedy clubs and plays. They even drove to D.C. to shop in Georgetown and do lunch at Union Station. Having never experienced a man giving her this type of attention, Mimi was eating it up. She loved every minute spent with him. He was such a gentleman. He was spending his money and time with her, and he never pressed her about sex. Tuan was playing the role of a good guy. His other side, the dog, hadn't emerged yet. She wouldn't see the real Tuan until his mission was accomplished. By playing possum, he was setting her up for the kill. He could afford to be patient. He was getting hit off on a regular basis by a different chick every day, all day. So he could concentrate on putting in quality time and building up Mimi's trust. It was like an investment to him, and nothing more. After picking Mimi up for a dinner date one day, Tuan made an unexpected pit stop back to his apartment. He claimed to have forgotten something, but once he lured Mimi into his bedroom, one thing led to another. Before Mimi knew it, they were kissing. Tuan's lips caressed against her as his tongue stroked the inside of Mimi's mouth. From the floor to the bed, Tuan pulled her shirt up and unbuttoned Mimi's pants, still French kissing her. His slim but muscular body grinded against her as they both lay naked, sprawled on the bed, lips locked and bodies pressed tight. Tuan's eyes roamed over every inch of Mimi's body as he kissed her from head to toe. Damn, she looks even better naked. That couldn't be said for most women. They always had something, some type of body defect that turned his picky ass off. A little cellulite here, a couple of stretch marks there, and forget it. Tuan was judgmental like that. Nibbling and licking on the inside of her thighs, he fingered her clit. Moaning and groaning, Mimi, you know, I, I just want to say this. I actually giggled a little bit to read that word until I realized I say that word a lot when I roast people. So why am I giggling? Okay. Nibbling and licking on the inside of her thighs, he fingered her clit. Moaning and groaning, Mimi was climbing the walls. It was the right time to enter her. Gently, Tuan penetrated her raw, and the realization hit him that Mimi was a virgin. The excruciating pain shot straight into her stomach. In a missionary position, she was unable to bear the pain any longer as tears welled up in her eyes. She pleaded with him to take it out. but her cries only excited him as he drove his manhood deeper inside her. It was tight as hell, and he was loving every minute of it. Slowly, he established rhythm, and her pain turned into pleasure. Slowly, thrusting in and out, going around and around, he felt her walls as she kept his movement in perfect motion. Twan was putting his thing down. He was riding her gentle but rough. He wanted this moment to be memorable. If he did it right, he knew he could always have her anytime, regardless of what he did. So this is sex, Mimi thought to herself. This is what I've been missing. She was definitely open. From that day on, they were officially lovers on a regular basis. Twan had Mimi wet with the slightest touch and coming on a regular basis. However, the whining and dining quickly began to fade. Having gotten his way with Mimi, Twan tried to lock her down. She was just a notch on his belt. He bragged to people how he was hitting Tim Tim and Tommy's little sister. To him, it was something to be proud of, and he was. But for Mimi, it was so much more. He was her first, and she loved him with all her heart. Her entire world revolved around him. Whatever Twan said, Mimi listened. Whatever Twan wanted, Mimi gave him. And whatever Twan told her to do, she did. She thought his controlling ways were cute. This only proves he loves me, she thought. If he didn't love me, then why would he sweat me 24/7 about where I'm at or where I'm going? Why would he tell me to stop going to clubs and stop wearing tight pants? In her young mind, his actions just pointed to one thing: love. Love is blind. Even Eve said so. Mimi just swore up and down that she was his wifey, and he was the best thing for her on earth. However, one thing for certain, two things for sure. What's done in the dark will eventually come to light. Evidence of Twan's cheating ways began to surface. Damn, where the fuck is this nigga at? Mimi asked herself, glancing at the clock on the kitchen wall. She noticed he was over 2 hours late, and she'd already beeped him 3 times. Just beeped him. That is how old this book is. She'd already beeped him 3 times. 20 plus years. She'd already beeped him 3 times. Now she decided to call his cell phone, which she only did in extreme emergencies as instructed by him. On the fifth ring, a girl's voice could be heard through the handset. Hello? Hello, Twan? Mimi questioned, knowing that didn't sound like him. Who is this? A female voice asked, somewhat agitated. This his girl, bitch. Mimi answered back. Put Twan on the phone and he'll tell you who the fuck did. Click went the phone, and Mimi never finished her sentence. That's as far as she got before the line went dead. She tried to call back several times but got no answer. Then Mimi dialed his beeper number and kept hitting redial for the rest of the night. She knew a way numerically to spell curses like fuck you or go to hell. She jammed his beeper with that shit for hours and hours. Boy, good old days. The next day, he finally called with the lamest excuse too. Where the fuck was you last night? Who the fuck was that bitch who answered your phone? Mimi asked, as if the world was coming to an end. Playing it off, Twan calmly said, What are you talking about? I got locked up last night and I just got out of central booking. He responded like that shit was the truth. For what? She asked, interrogating him. Driving with a suspended license, he weakly answered. Why you ain't called me to let me know, huh? I was waiting for you all night. They only give you one phone call. You ain't had the money to bail me out, he snapped, trying to reverse psychology. Well, why you ain't call me when you got out? I know you saw my number in your pager, she firmly stated. I didn't get no beats. My batteries are dead. This game was the best shit he could come up with. He had so much game. He should have been playing in the NBA. Well, who was the girl that answered your phone? Mimi asked, knowing some bitch definitely hung up on her. Yo, ain't no girl answer my phone. You must have dialed the wrong number, Twan answered as if she was crazy, denying that shit to the best of his knowledge, information, and belief. In the end, all was forgiven. Mimi fell for the okey doke. She went against her better judgment to the next time when the physical evidence would be simply undeniable. Twan burnt her. When Mimi's gynecologist diagnosed her with a venereal disease, the proof was in the pudding. No, it must be a mistake. Are you sure? I can't have gonorrhea. Are you absolutely sure? Asked Mimi like the doctor didn't have a degree in medicine. I'm 100% positive, said the doctor, preparing to inject Mimi's right buttock with a needle, having no second thoughts about Mimi's diagnosis. Mimi, on the other hand, was shell shocked. She just couldn't believe it. She had no idea she was carrying an STD. Her discharge was off, and she had some cramping, but nothing that hit her in the head, just something that made oh, okay. This typo. I don't know why the translation to this has to be the translation from paper to Kindle. It looks like a print mistake. Okay. I would have noticed this when I read the book before. I'm gonna buy a hard copy just to compare. I think it's a translation to Kindle. Her discharge was off, and she had something crapping, but nothing that hit her in the head. Just something that made her want to get checked out. Sure enough, a venereal disease. She felt like crying, and when the doctor told her the news, her face turned red hot. She was so ashamed and so embarrassed. How could Twan do that? She knew it couldn't have been her who got it. Twan was the only lover she had. It had to be him. Of course it was him. But damn, how? Why? When she confronted him about the doctor's visit, instead of apologizing, he flipped the script on her. He had the audacity to accuse her of burning him. Who you been fucking? Twan asked seriously. Motherfucker, don't play yourself. You know I don't even get down like that. You know where I'm at and who I'm with at all times. Too bad I can't say the same for you, Mimi spat. Whoa, what you trying to say? Twan asked, asking nothing at all. Beneath the brave front, Mimi was miserable. She couldn't believe how Twan could fix his face to say what he had. But after hours of sweet talk and promises, it was all good again. He finessed his way back in, and before long he was dogging her out, as usual, standing her up and getting caught in lie after lie, time after time was becoming the normal routine with him. Tina watched helplessly as her daughter went through the trials and tribulations of young love. Mimi was heartbroken, and Tina knew the symptoms all too well. She saw history repeating itself. Mimi's father took her through the same hell before they were married. Unable to see her daughter suffer any longer, Tina said something about it during dinner. She dropped a jewel on her. What's going on, Mimi? You haven't been yourself, Tina questions curiously. Tina questioned curiously. Nothing, Mimi said nonchalantly while playing with her food. You think I'm blind, deaf, and dumb? I wasn't born yesterday. I was once your age, you know. I know that boy is showing his behind. Baby, you don't have to put up with that nonsense. You can't make him do right. If you're not happy, leave him. Don't sacrifice your happiness for nobody. You're still young and there will be others. Trust me. Always remember, a lying man is a half man, and a half of a man ain't no man at all, said Tina, sounding like she was Reverend Parker from the church. Seeing the logic in her mother's advice, Mimi had no choice but to agree with it. It was the truth. The truth never needs support, but still her heart wants what her heart wants, regardless of the consequences. Trouble is close behind. She continued to have sex with Twan whenever he requested it from her, thinking this would bring them closer. Finally, after coming to the painful conclusion that sex wouldn't, Mimi had another problem to deal with. She had managed to get pregnant. This was the crossroad for her in her young life. Unsure of what to do, she debated on whether to have the baby or have an abortion. Her ill feelings toward Twan, combined with her goal of finishing school, had her leaning towards having an abortion. But in her heart, she knew it was wrong, and her conscience was killing her. Ultimately, it was her decision to make. However, before she could make it, she needed to seek her mother's advice. Upset but not surprised, Tina took the news of her daughter's pregnancy in stride. Mimi, this is not what I expected of you. I wanted you to wait until you was married and grown to have a child. You're so young. Now you'll have to grow up. All that acting you do like you're grown, well, this is responsibility, honey child. There's no more hanging out. Your new number one priority is your child. Can you handle that? Well, Ma, I was thinking about having an abortion, she said, whispering as if it were a secret. What? Tina snapped. This family don't believe in no abortion. That's just murder by another name. And the Bible says, thou shalt not kill, she said, reaching into her religious bag for some spiritual inspiration. You wasn't aborted, she said with her eyebrows raised. That was all it took to convince Mimi to have her baby. All she needed was some maternal guidance, which is where Tina stepped in. Fortunately, the pregnancy bonded the two women. It was Tina who took Mimi to all her prenatal appointments and Lamaze classes. She ran out to the supermarket at all hours of the night, catering to her daughter's crazy food cravings. Mimi finally realized her mom and her unborn child was all she had in the world. In her last month of pregnancy, Twan tried to pop back into the picture, but the damage was done. Ain't nothing happening, Twan, said Mimi, standing in the doorway of her mother's house holding her 8-month-old belly. I'm just trying to check on you, said Twan in his normal, most sincere sounding voice. Twan, you ain't been bothered to check on me. Why you bothering me now? Asked Mimi, looking confused, like she truly didn't understand why he was there. What you mean? Ain't you having my baby? He said, as if that's why, after the last trimester, Mr. Invisible was suddenly being seen. You know what, Twan? Do us both a favor. And don't bother me by bothering yourself, said Mimi, slamming the door in Twan's face. She then wobbled back over to the couch where a bowl of sour cream potato chips and a pint of Haagen-Dazs vanilla bean ice cream to dip the chips into were waiting for her. Mimi told him wasn't nothing happening. She had no love for him after all he had done to her. Still, Twan kept calling, trying to wear her down. He thought wrong. Mimi had loved him so hard. Even she didn't understand her new resilience for him. He had worn her down with his mistreatment, his lies, his games, his betrayal, his misuse of the word trust, and knowing that he wasn't the one for her had finally set in. Mimi was over him, and there was no going back. Stop fucking calling me! Ain't nothing jumping here no more. Mimi screamed into the phone. Go back to your other bitches, yo, she added, tired of his phone games. Come on now, stop playing. Keep acting stupid and I ain't gonna claim that baby, said Twan, threatening her. Twan, that's some real sucker shit to say. That's how you want to play, you bitch ass nigga? Don't worry about me or my baby, cause you won't ever see it, she said, hanging up the phone. Her mother had just walked in the room and caught the end of Mimi's conversation. Don't ever let me hear you talk like that again. Never ever say that to a man. Do you understand? She asked. But Ma, you should have heard what he said to me, said Mimi in self-defense. Tina raised her hand, signaling Mimi to be quiet. I don't care what he said. No matter what y'all two may be going through now, don't you ever use the baby to get back at him. A child is not a toy. Don't put it in the middle of a tug of war. It needs its father just as much as its mother. Hearing that, Mimi backed down from her mother. She would never apologize, though. Mimi was some vindictive by her Scorpio nature. But this situation was justifiably so. She gave Twan her heart, and he stomped on it. After 9 turbulent months, Mimi went into labor. She delivered a healthy 8-pound, 2-ounce baby boy. Since her mother had supported her through her pregnancy, she let her name the baby. Naming the baby after Twan was never a possibility. Mimi swore her baby wouldn't have Twan's name, his first or his last. From the moment Tina laid eyes on her tiny grandson, all she could think of was the twins at birth. In honor of her dead son, she named her grandson Timothy Thomas. For Tina, her new grandson marked both her own sons' lives. The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. Though nothing could replace her son and bring him back from death, having a new life certainty helped to ease the pain. With a baby to take care of and classes to attend, Mimi began to buckle down and fly right. As a reward for being so good, Tina was taking Mimi to New York on a church shopping spree. I've been saving some money for your new school clothes. I think this would be a good outing. We don't get out no more, she said, Tina bundling up the baby. Goodbye, Siri. I know, Ma. I'm real excited. I've never been to New York, said Mimi, like she was really going somewhere. Tina picked up the baby and placed a bundled Timmy in her arms as she headed out the door. If you're so excited, why your shoes not on? We got a bus to catch. What you doing? Come on, Mimi.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pulling up, busting windows. I'm at your mama's spot, kicking cups, smacking dice. I'll make this block hot. No trapping here, slacking where? Wait, get your home right. I'm sick and tired of fucking crying and sleepless nights. Bitches approaching me, telling me they don't know of me. Oh, you think you slick? You think you got one up? You better ask my last nigga, cut his ass right up. Yeah, can't cry but spill milk if I knew it was rotten. And all these memories we had, it was quickly forgotten. Oh, this nigga think he's smooth, he tryna cast it over me. Keep him lying through his teeth, leave his ass like Emily B. No pink turtleneck, but I'm feeling bad. US, I can't let him go, but watch me loosen up. My grip, I'm hopping in my bank. I'm talking about that go wall. Shit, I need a couple bags. Ain't talking about no go yard, bitch. You geeking for? I'm really about to drag and go and cry on the wall. I had to tell that nigga stop playing with me before they find this picture on murder me. Be more careful with me. I ain't like these other bitches that you used to better watch the way you handling me. I told his ass be careful with me. He better be more careful with me. I ain't like these other bitches that you used to better watch the way you handling me.
So, my darlings, that was chapters 3 and 4. Hopefully, God willing, I will be back on Sunday, around the same time. Well, really, we think Sunday. Yeah, about the same time. Um, Sunday morning, 9, 10-ish, y'all, East Coast time, I think. I'll be back, hopefully, for 2 more chapters. Yes, this will be every 2 days till we finish the book. I hope you're enjoying it. I'm gonna drop my link real quick. Yeah, this is a little self promo because I forgot to do it while I was reading. Um, it's not mandatory, but it is greatly appreciated, and it will go towards more books or whatever. Whatever y'all want content, making the show better. Um, I will be back hopefully tonight, between tonight and tomorrow morning, for a quick just live to explain the rules and give the date of the actual giveaway, because I have to tell you all how to enter and the date you have to enter by. And I would like the news to get around to all my subscribers, the gamers, everybody. I want everyone to have a chance to enter, because I appreciate, and it took each and every one of you to help me get there. But yes, there will be 2 more, 5 and 6, depending on my time and my throat and my voice. It's a lot. I'm back here dry. I'm parched. Okay, sister is parched. Um, yes, I will be back Sunday. Yes, for the book. I might be back just playing the game, but I will be back on Sunday for the book, most definitely. Okay, we're gonna do every 2 days because I need to rest my voice a little bit. Um, in between, and you never know, I might need to roast somebody real quick. But I'm thankful for you joining me for this reading and appreciative. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked the book. It's Be More Careful by Shannon Holmes. This is the revised edition for the 20-year anniversary, the Kindle edition, which I'm gonna get the hard copy again because I gotta compare it to the Kindle. It's too many typos for Macmillan, and Macmillan is the publisher, so I think there's an error with Kindle somewhere. But anyway, much love, hugs, and kisses, my darlings, and I'll see you on the next one.